I'd like to believe Harry when he talks about all his struggles with mental health and how he had to endure years of silence about this topic. But there's a big problem, and it's that every time he sits down to address the topic, he seems to, let's say, change things a bit. And this is an excellent opportunity to make a comparison between the actual words that came out of his mouth in different occasions. Because verbal analysis plays a huge part in human behavior, and you should always pay attention to what people actually say. And there's always that member of the family that somehow changes the narrative to fit them, and it seems that they always get away with it. I'm going to address that too. Welcome back, my Body Language buddies. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Body Language guy, and it would be great if you join us by just liking this video, subscribing, and hitting that bell. Let's get down to it. Harry has made a conscious effort to make it clear about his situations inside the royal family and his struggles with mental health. The most relevant are the Oprah interview.
You were ashamed of admitting that Meghan needed help.
Yeah, I didn't have anyone to turn to. But for the family, they very much have this mentality of this is just how it is.
And the docuseries The Me You Can't See, where he states literally, I wasn't in an environment where I was encouraged to talk about it either, referring to the topic of mental health. But I'm confused. In May 2017, he sat down with Kate and William for the Heads Together initiative on mental health, and he said some really revealing words.
I always thought to myself, what's the point in bringing up the past? What's the point in bringing up something that's only going to make you sad? It ain't going to change it. It ain't going to bring her back. And when you start thinking like that, it can be really damaging. And you always said to me, you've got to sit down and think about those memories. But for me, it was like, don't want to think about it. And you always said to me, you've got to sit down and think about those memories. But for me, it was like, don't want to think about it.
Yeah, he said that William always told him to sit down and think about those memories. And we can imagine that it wasn't just to sit down, but to talk to someone that could help him. And 1 year before that, in July 2016, at a Heads Together event at Kensington Palace, he stated publicly that anyone can suffer from mental health problems, even a member of the royal family. In fact, he was actively engaged with William and Kate in raising awareness about this topic. But again, in the Oprah interview, he wanted to change the narrative and act like he had never had absolutely anything remotely related to support from his family, which we just confirmed from his own mouth and actions that this statement of being on his own was not true. Now, I find this kind of behavior incredibly annoying. Let's think about a very common example. Let's say that your father has a drinking problem. You tried to suggest ways to solve it, but speaking strictly just by yourself hasn't gone anywhere. You decide to team up with your brother, you speak to him, hey, our father is in a very dark place, you know what has already happened in all those family reunions, and we should stop this. You think your brother agrees with your point of view, and then you decide to bring up the subject to your father, being your brother present. Then what happens? Your brother says that he doesn't know what you're talking about, that he doesn't share your point of view, or maybe, if he acknowledges the conversation, he said that he didn't think it was a good idea to bring it up. You end up being the crazy one. Now, the first reaction that any person can have in this sort of situation is that you want to scream to their faces in front of everyone that you are such a coward, because that's what it feels like. They have a previous narrative, previous words, previous actions, and you've been involved with them, maybe suffering the same as them, and then the story changes completely and you're left in the curb. Harry even went as far as trying to imply that it was Meghan's idea that he seek therapy, when all these initiatives where he was involved with William and Kate were on full flight even before meeting his wife. Now, I'm sure you want to ask the question, why does he pretend to change everything that he has said, everything that he has shown the world to make it seem like he realized everything when Meghan came into his life? And there's also the fact that Harry was trying to expressly deny that his family had made any comments about the abuse and harassment of Meghan by the tabloids.
And the specifics around her race, there was an opportunity, many opportunities, for my family to show some public support.
Okay, he claims that, but then I'm even more confused because there was this statement from Kensington Palace back in November 2016 condemning the abuse and harassment, including the racial undertones that Meghan was suffering from the media. Excuse me, but that is not bad memory. I think one of the strongest theories is that he is desperately trying for people to like her. And I think that's something we all learn in school, and not in a good way. The more you want people to like you, you are just going to have the opposite effect. And what Harry's trying is to present Meghan over and over again like she's fighting against this huge juggernaut of the firm when they already left. That has been the greatest contradiction. You told everyone that you left to have a normal life, to have a private life, to live your royal duties, but all that you have done so far is to use your royal titles as a crutch. And the problem is that it's not just the titles. After all, titles don't mean anything, right? The problem is that you still use the figure of the monarchy to paint yourself like you're fighting something. There's an interesting fact that maybe you're not aware of. The Oprah interview was scheduled to be online for just 30 days after it happened, and then it was absolutely removed from everywhere. You cannot watch it online anymore. This was done on purpose, so it just fades from people's memory. I mean, beyond some clips that are going to be played over and over again, and the memes that I'm going to keep on pushing, most of the interview is no longer online. Don't you find it odd that the video where both Meghan and Harry accuse the royal family no longer exists? That is like saying, I don't want to continue this conversation over text or email. I want to have this conversation in person. That's very convenient because that way there will be no records of what's being said. I really used to give Harry the benefit of the doubt. But after reviewing their case over and over again, I noticed inconsistencies and contradictions that are far beyond what a simple slip of the mind, or that's not what I meant, could justify. And that's why I mentioned those hypothetical examples in families, because they happen all the time and those kind of people almost always get away with it. And you always end up feeling powerless because you know that what they said is simply not true. It's only that it's really sad, seeing a grown man trying to run away from something only to complain over and over again how that something affected him deeply and continues to do so. When it seems like 5 years ago, he was a totally different person. And here's my recommendation for you in this kind of situation. You will never win an argument with this kind of people. They will change their narrative over and over again and paint themselves as the victims. You will feel really powerless and frustrated, and the only thing that you can reasonably do is to limit your interactions and cut any contact with them. But when they notice that you ignore them, they will try to come back, interact with you again, provoke you again, get any reaction from you again. And that's why I'm absolutely sure that every time Harry runs out of clout, he's going to go back to the UK to get a fresh supply of it. So much for a normal life. If you want to support my channel and help me make more videos, all you have to do is like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss any of my body language analysis and tips. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas, and I'll see you soon, my body language buddies.